Okay, I found these fire starter sticks at one of our little local stores not too far from where I work. Decided to try them. They're made by Best Choice, which is kind of a brand that's floating around in some of the box stores around. And actually, right offhand, I can't remember which one. But the little store had these, so I thought I'd give them a rip. Now, they're considerably bigger than what I thought they were when I looked at them in the box. And they look to be some sort of biomass and wax, I think is what it is. It says break a starter stick in half. Stack the wood on top of half, leaving the rough edge accessible to light or a match. Light the rough edge. Well, that stands to reason. Now, this isn't one that you can probably start with a spark easily or anything short of a flame. Then they're not self-igniting, so they're actually kind of a flame extender, which is not always bad to have. But they're big, and this thing weighs 18 ounces for 4 of them, essentially. Of course, in an oh shit, you'd break off what you need. Now, let's see if I can get it to break long ways. Nope. All right, we're gonna burn a whole stick just to see. Oh yeah, that looks like wax. You can see it melting as the flame's on it. It takes a little bit to ignite it, so I'm really guessing that it's not going to be a spark-based ignition. We'll work on it at all. And it's going to be wind sensitive, unlike the lifeboat matches that we were playing with in another video. We'll just see how long this burns. It should, with the amount of fuel there, it should burn in an impressively long time. But we'll get... Smokes a little bit. Tell you almost what it looks like. Looks like horse crap mixed in with wax. Some sort of light paraffin, like what you'd wax a surfboard with or something along that line, mixed with horse dung. Which, yeah, it'd burn. They used to use it in houses back in the Middle Ages. They'd mix it in with the clay and stuff to make it a little more solid, last better. That's not a job I don't think I would want. Granted, as kids, we used to throw it at each other. I don't know if it'll show up in the camera, but as it's burning back, the heat's making the wax or the fuel part of it kind of bubble to the surface as it's blowing back. This would be a bit safer to carry in a pack or something than the kerosene tabs that I did on another video, simply because it's not a really volatile. Kerosene's not volatile, but it's a lot more volatile than a paraffin-based system is. This, what I would do, would probably take a knife and cut that stick into 3 pieces, and then individually wrap each piece into something, you know, like a plastic wrap or something along that line, and then you could pop it out and cut slices off as you need it. Because if you set your fire up, you are not going to need this. The only time you're going to need this much of a burn is if you're lazy and you're trying to go with a complete log fire straight out of the gate instead of working your way up, which you would in a serious oh shite situation. And then you wouldn't waste that much of a resource. Well, some would, but if you were smart, you don't want to. It does put out a fair amount of fire. I'm sitting, my arm's about a foot away from it, and it's not quite singeing the hair on it yet, but I can feel the heat. Flame extenders are handy. This is, you know, this is more of a, to me, a tender extender or you know, to boost it past it, because once you get the flame on it, it's going to go. And then this will burn longer than your average tenders, which will help get a fire going in less than stellar conditions. Not that we ever end up in less than stellar conditions. You know, Murphy seems to like us all the time, so we don't usually get his tender, loving attention. Oh, I don't know what I'd do without Murphy. I better quit talking about him because he's going to hear me and come on. This is burning a long time. Actually, it's doing, once it gets going, it's doing better in the breeze than I thought it was gonna. Granted, I got a bit of a windscreen, but the wind's starting to pick up more now. We supposedly have some weather coming in tonight. Not that it's showing yet. But that's impressive. Actually, I don't know if it's sawdust or what, but it just reminds me of horse crap and wax. Which, if you were gonna make it, dry it out really good. That would make and mix it with wax. That would make one really good fire starter, because that grass is processed down about as good as it's gonna get at that point. And I know my mom's watching this, getting ready to box up a buttload of it to send it down. She's got a barn full of it. Now you can see on the rock where the wax is coming out. We're finally getting to where we're burning the fuel out of the edges pretty good. You can see where it's starting to turn the ash, so the fuel's gone at that point. And you hit the carrier material, the combustible, and it's burned to ash. When the pioneers were crossing the grass desert out through here, I'd read in the old books they used to, as they were walking alongside the wagons, they'd pull up the long stems of grass, which at the time would grow 5 and 6 feet high, and they'd braid it out and plait it into heavy braids and lay it in the wagons. And at night, when there wasn't any fuel around, because sometimes especially west of here, quite a little ways, there's no trees, no nothing, so they would burn that, and then they would burn buffalo crap. They'd find dry chips of that and burn it. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm guessing meals cooked over that would develop a certain wang that they wouldn't normally have. But hearing that, I've been thinking about going out and picking up some dry cow poo, a couple buckets full, and just getting it going just to see actually how it does burn. Might have to do that on video just for entertainment. No, I'm not cooking over it. Might boil some water just to show it will, but I'm not drinking the water either. Or something like that on a cold night. I'm guessing that would do it. And since it is grass, it's just processed grass like the horse crap, it would burn, and it should burn quite well, because it would be pretty compacted, and if it's dried out the green ones wouldn't burn. Which, they have around here, they usually have during the county fairs and the city fairs and stuff like that, they'll have a cow pie throwing contest, which, pile of cow shit. Most of them are pretty dry, but it's funny to watch because every now and again they try to throw them for distance. So some people throw them like frisbees, some people throw them overhand like you would saw blade or something like that. The funny part is if they're a little green and they get a little extra spin on them, because the outside's all crusty, well, you can't always tell how the inside's like. If you get a green one, they explode and shower the crowd, which is absolutely hilarious from my point of view. You know, it's kind of like Gallagher with the watermelon, but on a bit of a nastier edge. But it smells like wax. I'm not sure if it actually is. It doesn't seem to say. Nope, but it's Best Choice brand. Oh, it's distributed out of Kansas City, Kansas. That's kind of cool. And it made it all the way out here to the forested regions of Kansas. That's a hell of a wagon trip. That alone, I think if you actually put that in a small stove, half of that alone would do what you want to do to boil water, make ramen on the trail. Carry around a couple of those and burn them up as you go in a like a firebox maybe, or an Emberlit stove, the flat folding stoves. That should work amazingly easy. I might have to try that. Yeah, down at the bottom it looks like wax. It's kind of what wax does when it gets too hot. If you got it in a pan and you're getting it, it's getting low. I've had it flash like that, just a little bit in the bottom of, say, a soup can that I was melting out. And just out of curiosity, I left it and it started smoking white like that. You see in the bottom, and then all of a sudden a column of smoke just went up in the air a couple of feet. Or not smoke, but smoke started pouring out right at first. And then all of a sudden it flashed and it was a column of fire. Which if you've got a big candle in a house and it burns all the way down, you want to be careful with that, because it'll start smoking like that, and then that smoke will ignite and it's a column of fire. And if it's near anything that it can touch, you're burning your house down. I didn't even look at my watch when I started, but this has burned a long time. These are not a bad fire starter. This should get anybody able to start a fire. I don't care how bad you are at it. If you can get this lit up with a Bic lighter, even wet logs, if you've got a little bit of something that you didn't actually pull off of out of the water that's super saturated, even stuff that's after a rain, you should get this should get it going. With the amount of heat and the time it's burning, you can see the one spot where I got the really good amount of water right in there. Even if you took one stick of this wrapped up and cut off a 1/4-inch piece of it, you would get multiple fires out of it. And you can take that 1/4-inch piece and cut it up into squares about a centimeter or so, dime size, and it would burn plenty long enough to get a fire going if you even know how to start a fire at all. I don't care, conditions could be poor and it'd still, I think, get it going. That's burning a ridiculously long time. Okay, I'm going to cut this off here, and then we'll start it up after it burns down some more. I've got it on the timer to see how long it burns while the video's off. There's no point in just sitting here watching it burn past this. It's been burning a considerable length already. So, we'll see where it gets. 20 minutes later, it's reduced by quite a lot. As you can see, it's still burning. But most of the wax is out. I'll turn it over and see what we got. It's still burning. That's kind of impressive. I'd say that chunk would probably burn a good hour. So I think we're at the 50-minute mark now, somewhere in there. I'm not sure exactly, we'll find out on the video. But in any case, that's a seriously impressive burn time. And all this wax that came down, if you had it in a normal, right there, that's wax running off. So you can see, if that was in a normal fire, it'd be soaked up by other things that you had underneath it, and it'd burn off, and it'd add to the burn time instead of subtracting from the burn time running down the rock. All the wax is basically burned out of that black bit right there, but it's a big coal now. So we're essentially down to the last of it. The fuel's pretty well burned out, and what you're looking at is a bit of what I'd call charcoal. Let's see if it'll... In any case, that is an impressive burn time. It's still going. That should all burn down into a gray ash like the rest of it up front. Well, no, wind blew it out. It's very hot. Yeah, it's a coal, right? It's a coal basically burning right now. So we're down however long it'll sit there and smolder. Even like that, if that's what you had, you could still start a fire with that. Because I guarantee it would start a fire. Said I think that would run in one of those small cook stoves pretty good. That's a pretty good fuel source. A quarter of that stick would last a long time. But that's the best choice fire starter sticks. Again, this is what they look like. They look a little better new. This has been riding around in the car. Like I said, it kind of looks like horse crap and wax. But as you saw, it burned very effectively. It's a very good fire extender. I wouldn't call it a fire starter. It's more a fire extender, and use it with your fire starter to extend the flame and get something that's being a real pain in the ass to go. That's about what it is.